Okay, let's dive into something that, well, it can feel a bit tricky for a lot of us, especially when we're speaking English. I'm talking about small talk.
Ah, yes. Small.
You know, those everyday chats you have when you meet someone new, or maybe just before a meeting kicks off. Figuring out what to say, how to keep it going,
Mhm.
it can be a challenge.
It really can. It's definitely a common area where people feel a little unsure. But our deep dive today, looking at the sources you shared, it shows that small talk isn't some kind of like mysterious art form.
Right.
It's absolutely a skill, and it's one you can learn and actually get better at with, well, practice.
And that's really the goal here with this deep dive. We want to pull out the key ideas from these sources, give you some practical tools, and hopefully build your confidence for those small talk moments in English. Think of it maybe as a bit of a shortcut to feeling more comfortable and, connected.
And the reason we even do small talk, it gets right to the heart of that connection. It helps you build rapport.
Rapport. Okay, that word sounds, well, important. What exactly does building rapport mean here?
Well, the sources describe it as creating a natural kind of positive feeling between you and someone else.
Mhm.
It's about making things feel easy, establishing that connection.
Yeah.
And small talk is really foundational for this. It's like the first step in verbal communication that helps build those positive relationships.
It's kind of like building a little conversational bridge between people,
Exactly.
making everyone feel a bit more relaxed and comfortable just talking.
Precisely. And the benefits, they're pretty significant according to the sources. This isn't just like idle chatter.
Right.
Small talk is useful in so many situations, business, personal life. It's how you start getting to know new colleagues, maybe learn more about the people you already work with, or even expand your professional network.
Yeah, and that networking bit is huge, isn't it? For career growth, finding new opportunities,
Hmm.
it really can open doors.
It definitely can. But, beyond just work stuff, it's also about the everyday interactions, connecting with people, making friends, and just feeling, well, happier and more confident when you talk to others.
So it's a really fundamental communication skill. Makes sense.
It truly is. Makes everything smoother.
Okay, so if it is a skill we can learn, what are the practical steps? How do we actually do it? The sources seem to lay out a pretty clear path.
They really break it down quite simply. The very first step, and look, it might sound obvious, but it's so important. Introduce yourself.
Okay, yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
Especially if you're meeting someone for the very first time.
Or even if you've met them before, but maybe it was quick or in a big group, you
Hmm.
know? The sources suggest adding a little context,
Context, how so?
like how you relate to them. You could say, "Hi, I'm your name. We work in different departments at company name," or maybe, "I'm your name. We met briefly at the conference last month." Something like that. It just helps them place you.
Right, right. Adding that little bit of info helps clear things up right away. Okay, introduction's done. What's step two?
Put your devices away.
Hmm. The phone.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we're all a bit guilty of the quick check sometimes.
Ah, yeah, many of us are. But the sources are really clear on this one. When you put your phone or your laptop away, it sends a signal
What kind of signal?
that you're actually present, that you're giving your full attention to the person you're talking to.
Hmm.
It makes them feel, more important, more connected in that moment.
Got it. Show you're focused on them, and that probably leads pretty naturally into the next step.
It does, yeah. Step 3, remember to listen. And not just passively listen, like waiting for your turn to talk.
Okay.
We're talking about active listening.
Active listening. What does that actually look like? How do you do that?
Well, the sources describe it as finding a balance between your talking time and your listening time,
Hmm.
and crucially, showing the other person you're engaged.
How do you show that?
Things like making eye contact, using positive body language, maybe a nod or a smile, and also offering little verbal cues
Like what?
like, or I see, or oh, that's interesting. It just shows you're actually processing what they're saying. You're with them.
Okay, so you're kind of participating even when you're not the one speaking.
Right.
So you've listened, shown interest.
Yeah.
How do you keep the conversation actually going?
That's where step 4 comes in handy. Ask open-ended questions.
Open-ended. Can you explain that a bit more simply? What does that mean?
Sure. An open-ended question is basically one that can't easily be answered with just a simple yes or no.
Okay.
They need a bit more detail in the answer, right? It gives the other person space to share more about themselves or their thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
One source actually says it allows the conversation to blossom.
Blossom. I like that image. Okay, can you give me a really simple example?
Yeah, so instead of asking something like, were you all right? Where most people just say yes.
Right.
Try asking, how have things been? It's broader. It invites them to tell you a little bit about what's been going on with them. It opens the door for, a real conversation.
Ah, I see. That makes a big difference. Gives them room to share something. Okay, and the final step the sources mentioned.
Step 5 is respond with enthusiasm.
Enthusiasm. Why is that one important?
Well, because your reaction tells the other person that, one, you were actually listening, and two, that you value what they just said.
Okay.
Showing genuine interest, even if it's just in your tone of voice or saying something like, oh, that sounds great, or wow, really? I didn't know that. It makes the other person feel good. It reinforces that positive connection you're trying to build.
Right. So let's recap the steps quickly. Introduce yourself, put devices away, listen actively, ask those open-ended questions, and respond with enthusiasm.
Exactly.
Those steps seem pretty clear, pretty actionable, actually.
They really are. Now, okay, a common point of anxiety for a lot of people is just, what do I even talk about? What topics are like safe and effective for small talk?
Yeah, that's the big question sometimes.
Well, the great news, according to these sources, is that most small talk actually revolves around just a few simple, universal topics. One source even calls these the golden keys.
The golden keys. I like that. Like they unlock the conversation.
They really do seem to. And here's another helpful little structure they mention. For almost any topic, you can ask about now, the past, or the future.
Oh, interesting. Now, past, future. That gives you a simple framework.
Exactly, for coming up with questions.
Okay, let's look at these golden keys then, and some of those example questions. First up, a really common one, work.
Right. So the most basic question about their current job, the now, is simply, so what do you do?
Standard opener. And if they tell you, how do you dig a bit deeper using that past idea you mentioned?
You can ask about their journey, questions like, oh, what made you want to become their job? Or how did you get started in this field? Maybe even what was your very first job? It helps you understand their background, their story a bit.
Interesting. So you're learning more about them. How about asking about their work now, beyond just the job title?
Yeah, the sources suggest asking about their day-to-day or their experiences. What's a typical day like for you? Or
Yeah.
what's the best part of your job? Or what do you love about what you do?
Okay.
And if you happen to know they do other things, like maybe volunteer work or side projects, you could ask, oh, how's your volunteer work going? Or do you have any interesting side projects on the go?
And thinking about the future aspect of their work, how does that fit in?
Well, you could ask about their aspirations, but maybe phrase it carefully, something like, is this your dream job? Or are you maybe working towards something else you're excited about? You just want to be careful not to imply their current job isn't good enough,
Right. Tact is important there.
Definitely. A lighter future question could be, okay, if money was absolutely no problem, what job would you just love to do?
That's a fun one. What did they say? Oh, I wouldn't work at all.
Huh. Yeah, that's a fair response. You can just smile and say something like, okay, fair enough. So how would you spend your days then? It keeps it light, shows you heard them.
Good way to handle it. Okay, golden key number 2. Life. This sounds broad. Hobbies, weekends, general updates.
Exactly. And this area is fantastic for finding common ground. A super easy and safe question about the near future is just, have you got any exciting plans for the weekend?
Simple, effective. Most people have something planned, even if it's just relaxing.
Right. And asking about hobbies in the present,
Yeah. How do you do that?
you could ask, what do you enjoy doing in your free time? Or simply, what are your hobbies? And if they mention something you don't know much about, that's a great chance to show curiosity.
No.
The sources suggest saying something like, wow, that sounds really interesting. How did you get started with that?
Nice. Books, movies, TV shows, music.
Hmm.
That all fits under life too, right?
Absolutely. These are really common, easy topics. Have you read any good books lately? Or seen any good movies? Or what show are you watching right now?
Easy conversation starters.
Totally. Other examples include asking about favorite musicians, podcasts, maybe even useful apps they like.
What about family or pets? That's safe territory.
Um, it can be a warm topic, but you kind of have to read the room, you know? Sense if it feels appropriate. If it does, simple questions like, do you have any kids? Or do you have any pets? Or maybe, how is your family doing? Can work well.
Okay. Use with care
Hmm.
and asking about where someone lives or where they're from.
Oh, yeah, that's a classic way to talk about the past and present. So, are you from the city originally? If they say no, you can follow up with, oh, where did you live before you moved here? Or what brought you to this area?
Or just, how do you like living here?
Exactly. It opens up discussion about their experiences.
I noticed you started that question with so again.
Ah.
Is that a conscious thing?
Ah, you caught that. Yeah, that's actually a little tip from one of the sources. Starting a question with so is a really natural way in English to um, introduce a new idea or maybe gently shift the topic. It just softens the start a little.
That's actually really helpful. Such a small word, but makes a difference.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on. Golden key number 3. Travel.
Ah, travel. Another topic lots of people enjoy talking about. You can ask about past trips easily.
Like,
Where did you go on your last vacation? Or if you happen to know where they went, maybe, oh, you went to Place last year, didn't you? Any tips or recommendations?
nice. Or looking ahead to the future.
Yep. Do you have any trips coming up? Or are you planning anything for the holidays? The sources also mention asking about someone's bucket list.
Bucket list. What exactly does that mean? Maybe not everyone knows.
Good point. A bucket list is basically a list of things you want to do or places you want to see during your lifetime. So you could ask what places are on your bucket list or what destinations are you dreaming of visiting one day. It's about future dreams.
Okay, that makes sense. And sharing your own travel stuff can be a good way in too.
It definitely can. One source suggests maybe leading with your own experience. Oh, I just got back from a trip to place. Have you ever been there? It makes it easy for them to jump in if they have.
Right.
You can also just ask for recommendations, could be for travel spots generally, or even local places like, what are your favorite places to eat around here?
Which leads us nicely to golden key number 4. Food. Always a good topic.
Oh, yeah, definitely relatable. Easy present questions often involve asking for recommendations, like the one you just mentioned, or I'm trying to decide where to go for lunch. Do you know any good spots nearby?
Simple, practical. What about talking about cooking?
Yeah, you can share your own plans. I'm making dish for dinner tonight. What about you? Any exciting dinner plans? Or ask about their preferences. What's your favorite type of food?
Okay.
Or maybe ask if they've tried that new restaurant down the street. The sources even mention asking for favorite recipes or, wine recommendations if that feels right.
Lots of options there.
Yeah.
And the final golden key. Maybe the easiest, most universal one. Weather?
Ah, the classic. Yes. The ultimate small talk starter. Beautiful day today, isn't it? Or, wow, can you believe all this rain we've been having?
Can't go wrong with the weather.
Pretty much. It's simple. Everyone experiences it. It's a very safe way to just begin a chat.
Yet it can often lead into other topics too, can't it?
Right. You can use it as a bridge. Like, it's really pouring out there. How did you manage to get to work this morning? Suddenly you've moved from weather to their commute.
Clever. The sources also mentioned a few other common things, right? Like sports teams, recent games.
Yeah, or even starting with a compliment, like, oh, I love your outfit. Where are your favorite places to shop around here? The main idea is that these are general, common areas most people feel comfortable discussing.
They give you a starting point.
Exactly. Now, beyond just having topics and questions ready, the sources also offered some extra tips to make your small talk even better, more effective.
Okay, let's hear those. What else can help?
First, try to personalize your conversation.
Personalize.
Oh, yeah.
How do you mean?
It just means choosing topics that seem relevant to the specific person you're talking to, if you can. If you know you share an interest, maybe you both like hiking or you saw the same movie, definitely bring that up.
Ah,
Talking about something you both already care about makes the conversation feel much more engaging, much more quickly, builds a stronger connection.
that makes total sense.
Yeah.
Connecting on common interests feels more genuine, doesn't it?
It really does. Second tip, really try to show interest in the other person. This ties back to the active listening we talked about,
Right.
but it's also about being genuinely curious. The sources suggest things like repeating back something they said in your own words just to show you understood, or asking follow-up questions based on what they just told you.
So really paying attention and responding to what they say.
Exactly. It makes them feel heard and valued. That's key for building rapport.
Okay. Be present, be responsive. What else?
Third, maybe come up with some topics in advance, especially if you know you're going to an event like a work thing or an industry conference.
Prepare beforehand.
Yeah, just take a few minutes before you go to think about some relevant conversation starters. Maybe topics related to the event itself or recent news in your field, or questions about common challenges people in that group might face.
Like little mental prep. That could definitely reduce anxiety.
For sure, that preparation can really boost your confidence. Fourth tip, stay reasonably informed on current events.
Okay, how does that help with small talk?
Well, the sources suggest that just having a general idea of what's happening in the world, or even just locally or in your industry, can give you natural conversation starters.
I see.
It helps you understand references other people might make, and it just gives you more potential ideas for questions or comments. Of course, we're just pointing out the sources list this as a tool, not suggesting any specific news or anything.
Understood. It's about having potential topics.
Yeah.
And finally, a really simple but powerful tip.
Ah.
Give compliments.
Yes. A genuine compliment is often an excellent way to start a conversation. Why? Because it immediately creates a positive feeling.
Makes sense. People like compliments.
Right. It makes the other person feel good right off the bat, helps build that initial rapport. One source gives a good example. Complimenting someone on, say, an article they wrote, and then using that to ask questions about their ideas or how they wrote it.
Ah. So using the compliment to open up a more specific conversation. That's practical.
It really is. Now, look, we've focused quite a bit on asking questions and starting these conversations, but small talk, well, like any conversation, it's a two-way street, isn't it?
Absolutely. And this is where it really comes back to you, the listener, especially as someone learning and practicing your English.
Precisely. Improving your small talk is definitely a skill you can develop to feel more confident speaking English. And one source offers a really valuable piece of, let's call it practice, not homework, practice.
Practice. Okay, I like the sound of that. Tell me more.
The idea is simply to think about your own answers to the kinds of questions we've been discussing today.
Ah, so not just preparing what to ask, but preparing what to say when you're asked.
Exactly. Think about it. You ask someone a question, maybe about their weekend, and they answer. The conversation flows much better if you're also ready to share a little bit about your weekend when they likely ask you back.
Yeah, that reciprocity is key.
It is. So, thinking about your plans or your job or your hobbies or what's on your bucket list, it just makes you feel much more prepared and comfortable when it's your turn to share.
That is such a practical, helpful step. It makes you an active participant, ready for both sides of the chat.
Mm.
You know, this deep dive has been incredibly practical, breaking down the why, the how, those golden keys, the extra tips. It really shows that small talk isn't magic. It's a skill. Anyone can learn it, anyone can improve.
It absolutely is. And remember, every single conversation, no matter how small, is an opportunity to practice, to learn something new, and maybe connect with someone.
So, as we wrap up this deep dive, here's a final thought for you to maybe take away and act on this week. Think about those golden keys and all the example questions we talked about.
Yeah.
What is just one simple question from that list that you could practice asking someone in English soon? And just as important, what will your answer be if someone asks you that same question?
Prepare both sides.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Take that first step, get your answer ready in your mind, and then, just try it out.